Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MI Gardener channel. I know all of you are going to like this one because today we're going to be talking about how to grow bay leaves. Now this is the bay laurel tree, and for those of you that don't know, the bay laurel tree is what produces all the bay leaves that you use in your cooking. So one of the nice things about this tree is it's very beneficial. Another nice thing about this tree is that it can save you a ton of money. Another nice thing about this tree is that it's very easy to grow. In fact, it's in the top probably 2 or 3 easiest trees to grow here in our tropical collection. And so it's going to be an easy one for you to grow as well. And another really nice thing about this tree is that it is one of the most beautiful foliage plants. Personally, I think this is probably my top 1 or 2, again, top favorite foliage plants because it is just so incredible. The leaves get super dark. They are just, there's something about them. I don't know what it is, but when this starts really producing and really starts filling out, it just has this shrub-like look that it's incredible. It's really incredible. So it's a very beautiful foliage plant as well. And like I said, it's very easy to grow. So without further ado, let's get into how to grow it because I know you all are going to want to try it. So the first thing you need to know about the bay laurel tree is that it is actually grown in arid climates. So it's treated much like your avocados and cacti and your Mediterranean herbs, things like that. So if you have any of those and you've ever grown those, you know that the first thing we need to talk about is soil. Now when it comes to soil, when you're growing the bay laurel tree, you want to make sure that you add a very good well-draining mix. Now, I would not recommend using just your standard potting mix. For other plants, that might be fine. However, when it comes to your arid climate crops, we always recommend at least, at very minimum, a 1-to-1 ratio of sand to potting mix. And that sand is what's going to add that really well-draining nature to your growing medium. Personally, we add a little bit more than 50%. So, at minimum 1-to-1, but we typically add like 60 to 75% sand, and then the remainder being our potting mix, because we really want to increase that drainage to where there's no water that's going to be standing that's not being absorbed into the organic matter here. So we use ProMix for our potting mix, and that has a good ratio of coconut husk fiber and sphagnum peat moss, as well as perlite and vermiculite. And I really love that because it holds on to some moisture, but it drains really quickly. In fact, if you overwater, pretty much the water will go right through the pot, which is what you're looking for. And then all that's remaining is just a little bit of dampness from that sphagnum peat moss and coconut husk fiber that hold on to that moisture, but not too much, because these will suffer from root rot very quickly. In fact, they're very prone to root rot. Say that 10 times fast. They're very prone to root rot because they do not grow in areas that get a lot of rainfall. Like I said, these are grown in very arid climates. Southern California and areas like the Bay regions of California grow this, and because it is such a easy and very hands-off crop to grow, they pretty much line the streets with these. In fact, there's whole streets where these can literally be seen growing, and I wonder if anyone even buys bay leaves in that part of California, because it's they literally grow everywhere. Another nice thing about these trees when it comes to their ease is obviously the watering, because they don't like a whole lot of water anyways. And so when it comes to other plants, you might be freaking out if you have to leave on vacation. These ones will probably do better if you're on vacation, because to a certain extent, the less water you give them, the better they do. They really don't like that much water, and so we'll only water these bay trees when they really need it. And you'll notice when they need it, because the leaves are really stiff. They're very, very stiff right now, but when they need it, they'll give a little bit of a droop, and they'll become a little bit limp, and that's really all you need to know to water them. Another thing too is if we don't see that sign, we'll typically give them just a little bit of water about once a month, and that's really how rarely we water these. So don't need, you can pretty much get the soil pretty easily, and the watering is very easy as well. So far, very easy plant to grow. Now I want to talk about fertilizing, because fertilizing is the next thing that people often get hung up on. And fertilizing these are really not that difficult. You just need a very good all-purpose fertilizer. It's a lot like if you saw the curry tree episode. We talked about how trees that are not really cultivated for their fruits and things like that, they really don't need that much nutrients or fertilizer because they're grown as just a tree. Like we have trees here, like maples and walnut trees and things like that. They're not cultivated specifically for a need, so these are really just like wild trees that grow, and therefore they've grown a wide variety of climates, soil conditions, and are subject to a lot of different varying nutrient contents in their soil. So they really don't need that much, but they will benefit from having a good all-purpose fertilizer. So just something that's well balanced in all your macronutrients as well as trace minerals, and you should be more than fine. We personally give them Trifecta Plus here. Trifecta Plus is our go-to fertilizer. It's our all-purpose fertilizer of choice for all of our plants, including our vegetable garden, and that's just what we use, and it grows the plants really well. In fact, when we got this seedling, it was only about this tall. It was really small. In fact, it was just a cutting. It was a rooted cutting in a 1 inch by 1 inch cell, and that has grown into this. Now, these obviously will get very tall. That requires some pruning because they'll just keep growing and they'll keep growing out as well. But the really nice thing about these is they don't mind being pruned. So you can prune them back, you can hack them back. And in fact, I accidentally cut the main growing tip. As you can see, I cut the main growing tip right there, and then it just put out a whole new shoot, and it was totally fine. So it actually sent out another side shoot down here too. So it's growing really quickly, and it's something that we actually have harvested leaves from even at this age. We've harvested a few leaves from this plant for our cooking, which is nice. The next thing I want to talk about is sunlight, because sunlight is rather important when it comes to growing trees. You do not want to give them any less than 5 hours of sun. Make sure you throw them in a really good south-facing window, or in our case, we put them underneath these lights, 16 hours on, 8 hours off, and they do great. But the other thing too is that these will do better the more sunlight you give them. They grow in arid climates, and arid climates are known for having very strong sun and a lot of it. So there's not a whole lot of shade cover when it comes to these, so don't be afraid to give it more sunlight. Just make sure it gets at least over 5. The next thing I want to talk about is is temperature and humidity. So with temperature, kind of I just talked about, the sun is very direct and there's a lot of it. That means it's usually pretty hot. These grow in very arid climates that get temperature swings of anywhere from 60 to 110 degrees, maybe in a given day. So I like to say that temperature is not necessarily the most important thing as long as it is above 60 degrees and maybe below about 100 and 105. So I'm sure it would probably appreciate something in the 80 to 85 degree range, because that's about the average temperature of a really arid climate. So something that you don't really need to worry about that much as long as you don't leave it outside. And also too, I guess that brings with humidity. So humidity is something that is important when it comes to these, because these can be very prone to powdery mildew if you have them in a humid environment. Their leaves are very coarse, and that leaves a lot of surface area for fungus and mildew to land on. So one thing you want to focus on is having them in actually a dry location. We have ours in a room that has a humidifier turned up to about 50%, and that's not really ideal, but because we have such strong lights, I'm kind of taking the good with the bad, and they should not get, in 50% humidity, they should not get powdery mildew. But what I'm trying to say is the less humidity you have, the better you're going to be. Because in arid climates, their humidity can be 10 to 30%, and usually not a whole lot more than that. So it's very dry. It's a very, very dry air. And so that is kind of what you want to look for growing these, because obviously the better you can reproduce the natural growing environment, the better it's going to do. But all in all, it's a very easy plant to grow, and something that you really don't need to worry that much about when it comes to growing conditions. The final thing I did want to mention is I always recommend taking a pH test of your soil, because a lot of your arid growing crops grow in a rather high pH soil, or rather high acidity soil, or low pH, sorry. Sorry for the confusion there. But the nice thing about growing these in your average potting mix is that usually if you get a good quality one like ProMix is what we use, that usually is pH balanced to be slightly acidic due to the sphagnum peat moss. But always check, because if you need to add a little bit of powdered sulfur or rock sulfur, you can do so, and the plant will definitely do better in a lower pH, because that extra acidity is what it's normally used to, and that helps to uptake nutrients, it helps to reduce stress, and it also helps with root development and leaf production. So having proper pH at least is very, very important to have with success with your plants. So that's all there is to growing bay laurel plants. I really hope you enjoyed. I really hope you'll try this. Again, I got these, I'll post a link to where I got these. I'm not sure if they're still selling them or not, but I got these on Amazon and they were just selling a tiny little cutting, and like I said, it's growing really well for me. So I'm sure if they're still selling them, they'll grow really well for you. As long as you keep these things in mind for this growing guide, you should be fine. So I'll catch you all later on the next episode. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button, and also make sure to subscribe if you're not yet already, because we got a ton more stuff coming out. We have a ton coming out in the sprouts and more tropical growing guides and a whole lot of stuff. So you're not going to want to miss it. And so as always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll catch you all later. See ya.